So I did a lovely workshop at Greenwich Pilates Studios recently. Not a Pilates workshop, a functional movement workshop called Aging Well. And I want to offer this kind of summary. Difficult to summarize a 2-hour workshop in a few minutes, but I'm going to do it. If you have any questions, just reach out or come to another workshop in future. So, aging well in terms of movement is about, of course, maintaining your resilience. And how do we do that? In movement, we need to be sort of adaptable. The way that we use our bodies over time shapes our bodies, right? So if I do something again and again and again and again and again over many years in the same way, for example, sitting, let's just say I sit in the same way again and again and again over hours of every day, over years, eventually that's going to form my body. And actually when we're growing and when we're also sort of deteriorating, it really even shapes the bones and the joints. At a joint level, the bones will sort of wear, or maybe cartilage wears, or when you're growing, the bones actually are shaped by the movement that you're doing. So how do we maintain that adaptability, that ability to keep moving rather than getting fixed and kind of locked into one position as we age? Of course, we could just be really basic about it and say, keep moving, just keep moving. That's what you've got to do, right? But I want to be a bit more specific about something that you can do in your daily life, and also just something to watch out for. Because I work with all kinds of people in all kinds of places and all different ages, and regardless of the age, I can see people already. I work with people in like professional training situations, people under 20 years old, for example, who already have lost mobility around the pelvis, which is to say the hips, the spine, etc. You can't move your pelvis, you can't roll your pelvis without articulating the joints above and below. So they've lost this mobility, this ability to shift weight in relation to gravity, and they're kind of already locking in to a certain shape. Now, of course, if you're young and you've got lots of strength, it doesn't matter if you have to use a lot of muscular effort to get up and down, right? Because your posture's like locked into this shape. Or let's say your posture's locked into this shape and you've lost your ability to soften and roll the pelvis the other way. So whatever shape you're kind of locked into just because you're in that shape throughout the day, again and again without realizing, as you age, that's going to start limiting your mobility really, really chronically. So what we're talking about, of course, is when somebody gets to a certain age or has experienced mobility issues and hasn't worked through these things I'm talking about, regardless of the age, and you start to find it's maybe difficult to get out of the chair without help. You can see people sort of, you have to hold on to something, maybe use the arm of the chair. Perhaps, the people watching who already experienced that, like, oh yeah, when I push myself off the chair, actually I have to use my arm to help me get up. It might be like, oh, well, because I've got a bad knee or something. Okay, fair enough. But even then, if you can roll your pelvis in every direction in relation to gravity, if I can roll my pelvis forwards and backwards and side to side and around in a circle, then even if I've got a bad knee, I can choose, okay, well fine, I'll get up over the other knee. Or, okay, I'll get up over that knee. Or actually, both knees are bad, so how do I make it as light on my knees as possible? Well, maybe I have to shift how I stand and find a different way. But I can maintain my independence because I have the ability to roll the pelvis. So in our workshop, we did lots of rolling the pelvis, getting to know the pelvis a little bit, sensing the sitting bones. If you're sitting on a chair, you can try it. The sitting bones are like those bony kind of base of the pelvis, 2 spiky bits under each buttock, the bony structure. If you don't know where it is, you could just have a wriggle and try to feel the bony bits against a hard seat. And even as you have a wriggle, you are already rolling your pelvis. So you're kind of getting used to that idea of rolling the pelvis. Might be that you already do some kind of exercise class. For example, if you do Feldenkrais, you're doing lots of this. If you do Feldenkrais awareness through movement, you're doing lots of it already. If you do Pilates class, you'll be taught one way, a very sort of specific way of rolling the pelvis, where you have to draw your stomach in to tuck your tail between your legs and flatten your low back, and then release. And then maybe, depending on your teacher, maybe you'll be invited to go the other way, to stick the bottom out, to gently arch the lower back, to let the belly out. And you're kind of rolling the pelvis up and down. Same thing, up and down, forwards and backwards. But can we go forwards and backwards, up and down, side to side? Can we roll? Can we do the same thing in side lying? Can I stick the bottom out, tuck the tail underneath? Can I do the same thing with my arms and legs in the air? Stick the bottom out. Just playing with so many different ways of rolling the pelvis in relation to gravity. So you can do it on a seat, rolling forwards and backwards, shifting side to side. You can try it standing. You can try it standing on one leg, a bit trickier. You can try it sitting on the floor in this side sitting position, legs the other way, cross-legged the other way. You can try it in low kneeling. You can try it in high kneeling, shifting the weight side to side. Yeah, all of these things, which of course I'm speeding through like crazy, but even if you don't do any of that, you can sit on the chair while you're having your dinner, and before you eat, you can go, oh yeah, do you know what? I've got a bit fixed in my hips and I'm holding my breath, and I could just roll my pelvis, maybe for 5 seconds, and that's it. And then maybe another time you're having to crouch down and get something out of the cupboard, and you think, oh, I'm always doing that the same way, because I don't think about it while I'm doing it. Wonder if I could roll my pelvis here, what would happen? Well, I'm in an asymmetrical position, so it's going to be really different, but how can I roll my pelvis? You know, it's going to look different when everybody does it. Brilliant way to do it is on all fours. Can you roll the pelvis here on all fours? Again, maybe a familiar movement. You can see the pelvis only rolls because my back is moving, and what you can't see maybe is that my hips are also moving. The hip joints, let's say, are moving. But can you also shift and roll? Shift and roll the pelvis, shift the pelvis forwards, backwards, side to side. Eventually, as I was saying, you maintain your ability to get up and down off a chair, but you also maintain your ability to get up and down off the floor. And over time, because you're better at shifting your weight while you're standing, you're also reducing the possibility of a fatal fall in the first place. So when we're getting much older and we really are, you know, the common thing is to start to become afraid of falling. And that's just another thing which can make us seize up, and we go even further into those habits which have already reduced our mobility. In fact, can I say stay soft and strong? Can I say soft and strong? Can I stay soft and strong? Shifting the pelvis in relation to gravity so that it's not so scary maybe. Of course, you still don't want to fall necessarily, but it's not so scary. You're more likely to be able to catch your feet underneath you. There's mobility above and below the pelvis because of that ability you have to roll the pelvis in relation to gravity. And there's also the ability perhaps to just get up and down off the floor if you need to. Thanks. Feel free to ask me any questions. It's a lot, and if you do want to have a little play with it yourself, take a tiny bit of what I've just been talking about and do the most minimal version you can. We're talking about training non-habitual patterns. So I'm going blah, 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 doing huge big things to talk through and make a really clear visual example as I'm rolling my pelvis this way and that way, and you're observing how it allows me to shift my weight in relation to gravity. But if you're trying it in your own body, you can go so small to be curious about what's possible, to be curious about how you can sense your own body, because we really want to be working, ideally to start with, from awareness. This is not just about do reps. This is about having an awareness of how you move and what your tendencies and habits are and patterns of movement that you tend to depend on or maybe even get stuck in. And then just very gently being curious about that and expanding your potential, expanding your range, but not by forcing it, but by just exploring and introducing variety. And again, over time, it will just allow you not to ossify, not to lose that adaptability and resilience, but to keep strength, flow, and, as I said, resilience over time, which of course, I haven't talked about it, but it's to do with also balance, coordination, proprioception, interoception, how your body senses where it is in space, how you sense your body from the inside, and so on. There'll be more workshops. I haven't got any Aging Well workshops scheduled for now. I've got some body lab workshops coming up, which is exciting. So another way of just working with me and getting to explore a little bit and get to know your own body. But I'm always here also for one-to-ones in person and online. And if you have any questions, just reach out.